What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and I'm here tonight with the review for Greenleaf Season 4, Episode 6, titled The Stranger. So, you guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into the video. Alright, so this episode, it picks up where last week's episode left off with, when Grace told May about her son. So, May wants to know, like, can I see a picture of my grandson? She's like, yeah. She shows a picture of her and AJ, and he's smiling. I'm like, when the hell was this picture taken? Like, can't be recent. Well, it had to be recent. I mean, when was this picture taken? When does AJ smile with you? But okay. So, she asked Grace, like, has she told Sophia? She's like, no, I haven't told her yet. She's like, well, this might be a chance for her to come back, at least for a visit now that everything is out in the open. And, oh, she also asked Grace, has she prayed? She says, yes, Mama, I've prayed. And then you can hear Charity's baby in the background crying, and you hear Charity screaming out for Marisol. I'm like, really? That is your child, not, well, Marisol might as well be his mom. So then we see Grace. She calls AJ, and she unfortunately gets his voicemail. And she tells him that, she told the rest of the family, and now their family wants to meet him. So then we see May. She's talking to Bishop, and, Bishop is not even listening to a word that May is saying. He's thinking about this time that Grace had called him for some money when she was, I guess, in Chicago or where, Memphis. Not Memphis, they live in Memphis. Like, he said Chicago, I believe. And, she told him no. And he feels like, at this time when she called him, because I think this was like right after Grace had left home, he was like, my daughter was out there pregnant. And, he was like, he wishes he had, listened to himself and went out there to help her. And, May, she's only worried about AJ, which that's a good thing. So then we see Grace, as she's walking into the church, and she gets a phone call from AJ, and AJ has been arrested. So then Grace goes down to the police station, and, when she sits with AJ tells her, like, I need you to be my alibi. She was like, okay, why do you need me to be your alibi? He says, because I fit the description of what they're looking for, and they're just trying to pin this on me. And she was like, where were you? He says, I was at home, but I can't prove it. So that's why I need you to be my alibi. And I'm like, oh, Grace. I don't believe AJ is telling you the full 100% truth. But we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Alright, so next the detective, he's showing, Grace footage of the robbery at this pharmacy that AJ has been to. And they feel like he cased the place out. So the detective is, trying to get Grace to say if AJ was with her or not with her, but he's really mostly trying to get her to say he wasn't with her. So then the detective takes out, recording. He says, well, I'm going to record this, kind of like, you're kind of used to this, right? You should be used to this when you were down here, a year ago, dealing with your uncle. I'm like, oh, so we going to bring up Mac. I'm like, that might not have been the best move if you want her to say that he was lying, to bring up Mac, of all people. Mac. So, she says to him, because he questions how she knows him. She's like, I'm his mother. And she does say, yes, I was with him. I'm like, oh, shit, Grace, you lied. And from that footage, you could clearly see that AJ was the one who actually did steal it, those drugs. And she wasn't lying. Well, she was lying, but AJ wasn't telling the truth at all. So then, as they're leaving the police station, Grace is visibly pissed off because she sat there and she lied. And AJ is still saying he didn't do it. And I'm like, you didn't do it, but you have the same hoodie on. At least take the hoodie off. Like, that would have been at least a little bit plausible. Take the hoodie off. And, she says, he asked her, so are you going to tell your family? She says, no, I'm not going to tell my family. So then we see, AJ, he's meeting Bishop, he's meeting May, and they're just happy and elated to see him. And then, May asks him, so would you like to meet your cousin Zora? He says, yeah. So, she takes him down to Zora's little crib. And Bishop asks Grace, so how are things for you? She says things are a little difficult. Well, she says it's a lot. And, Bishop's like, well, me and your mother could have helped you if you needed help. So then Bishop gets a call that the detective is there. So the detective is asking Grace some follow-up questions like, what did you guys talk about? Just all kind of follow-up questions. And Grace is like, well, we're talking about him, him getting a job because, he's an ex-con and it's going to be kind of hard for him to get one. He says, yeah. And then, he said, the detective also says, we saw you guys when you came, when you came in and you sat by your son. And the guys were having a conversation. It looked like he probably was asking you for an alibi, but unfortunately, we can't prove that because there's no audio. And then May comes in and she's like, "What is wrong now, Grace?" And she's like, "What are you not telling me? What's wrong?" So then we see that Grace has told her what's going on, and May is talking about the squirrel is dead, and Bishop like the squirrel is not dead, and Grace is like, "What is the squirrel?" The squirrel, however, is the church, her future, and everything else in between. And Grace says, well, she's like, "Grace, you lie." She says, "But they can't prove it." She says, "But AJ can." She's like, "You think he's gonna confess to something he didn't do?" And May is like, "What does this boy have to do to prove to you he's not trustworthy? You gave him money. He came back a few days later for more money. When he came there, he basically almost blackmailed you. He threatened you. So like, what's to say he want to extort this family for every penny we have?" So then Zora and AJ return to the house, and Maya's like, "Zora, can you leave us alone with AJ?" And she's like, "What about dinner?" "Zora, go away." So then he's like, "So what happened?" And they tell him that the police came there with more questions. And then May says, ask him, did he do it? He starts saying, "Lady, I just got out of prison. If I did that, I would be really stupid because I could be facing up to 20 years in prison." She's like, "That's not an answer. That you look guilty. It's not you answering the question." And they ask him once again, did he rob the drugstore? They kept asking him this question multiple times. Did he rob the drugstore? He never once said, "No, I did not rob the drugstore." And the reason why he couldn't say no is because hell, he did it. We all know that. So Grace is getting mad at May because May is not letting up on him. Like, she's not letting up on him. And May, Grace is like, "You know what? We're gonna leave." And as they're getting ready to leave, in walks the devil in a tight ass dress and some heels, known as Charity. Talking about, "Oh, where is my nephew?" I'm like, sit your extra fake ass down. And I'm gonna talk about her in a little bit. Like, please sit down somewhere. She was getting on my last freaking nerves. She's talking about she wants to know everything about him. So then Jacob comes in there, and May's asking, "Where's Karissa?" He says, "Oh, Karissa is out celebrating. Celebrating the house." So again, like I said, May is just not letting up on AJ. She's talking about how she's an adversary for him, and she asks him one more time, "Did you steal the drugs from the drugstore?" He runs out, and May was like, "See, there's your answer, Grace, right there. You're covering for a criminal." And she tells her, "You need to go down to the police station and tell the police the truth." And Grace runs out behind AJ. I'm like, ugh, I would hate to be in Grace's position. I really would. Like, that sucks. All right, so next we see AJ. AJ is back at his place and he's packing up, and we see that AJ did steal those drugs because he stuffed them in his duffel bag. So Grace comes over and she asks him like, "So where are you going?" He says, "I don't know." She's like, "That's gonna break the rules of your probation, right?" He's like, he doesn't really care. And then he's just talking about how maybe Aaron was right about her. Maybe she is a good person. Maybe she shouldn't have got pregnant by Noah. Maybe she shouldn't have had him. Maybe he shouldn't have came and found her. And I'm just like, boy, shut up. Like, just tell the truth. Like, all May wanted you to do was tell the truth. Like, they probably would have helped you had you just said, "Yes, I did steal the drugs." Like, they probably would have helped you, but they would have judged you nonetheless. But probably would have helped you. But he's saying he just got to go. And like I said, he's just saying that everything is a mistake. And Grace gives him her keys saying, "Take my car and to take care of yourself." He takes the keys and, he throws them back to her and says, "You do the same." So he dips out. I'm like, that's got to be a hard one. I don't know how I would feel about that. And then we see Bishop and May. They are in bed with each other, and Bishop is just telling May, like, everything is going to be okay. I mean, I know everything looks bleak and bad right now, but all will be all okay. And, he's getting sleepy. And he says, "You know what, I'm going to go get out of here before I go to sleep." She's like, "No, go to sleep." And I'm like, oh, look at them getting back in the bed together. And then she's like, I'm like, oh, they're going to get back together very soon. I'm excited about this. So we're going to move on to the one person that I just can't stand. All right, you guys. So let's talk about this bitch Charity. So with Charity, she goes into Phil's office and, she tells Phil that Grace has a son that no one knew about. And Phil is like, well, that's not a big secret. I mean, that's not a big deal because, I mean, she didn't have an abortion. She just gave him up for adoption, so we can't really use that against her. And then, she was like, well, that's why Noah and Isabel, that's why Noah was here, and that's why Noah and Isabel broke up. And then she says, get this, he's an ex-con. And he was like, okay, can't do nothing with that either. So she's like, well, he might come over to the house tonight. He's like, okay, well, when he come over, see what you can dig up from him. Like, see how he feels about Grace. And she's like, I'll do that. So then, Charity leaves the office and Jacob is coming up and he's like, are you in trouble with Phil as well? She's like, oh, yes, I am in trouble with Phil. He's like, so what did you do? She's like, I called Judy and told Judy we're not performing that song every Sunday here. And he's like, well, I just heard Carlton, sound like he was coming up with a new arrangement for it. And, I'm like, oh, this girl just gets on my nerves. And then, after the whole debacle with AJ with the family, she went running back to Phil once again, being a bitch. And she tells Phil that, she says, she met AJ and she says AJ was arrested for robbery. And guess what? He says, what? Grace lied. Grace says she was his alibi. He says, well, we can't really do anything with that, because we can't prove it. She says, oh, but I can. I recorded the whole conversation. I'm like, you stupid cow. Actually, in my notes, I wrote stupid bitch. Like, she's a stupid bitch, for real. And she's like, I want to use this against Grace to get Grace out of the church, but I don't want to do anything to hurt that boy. He's already been through enough. You dumbass. And then her and good old Phil, they kiss each other. And I'm like, I saw it coming. Charity is so needy. Gets on my last nerve. When it comes to this show, I try not to cuss because it's a Christian, it's a show about the church, but when it comes to a dummy like Charity, you can't help but to cuss. Because she gets on your last nerve. Oh, moving on. All right, so we see Jacob. So Jacob is in Phil's office, and Jacob is telling Phil that, what happened with the whole Dante situation. He was basically trying to break up the fight, but wasn't able to break it up, and it looked like he was fighting. Also, I forgot to mention that Jacob got to the church. He saw Corinne. Corinne was sitting there watching the fight. She said, "Oh, I was watching the sermon." He's like, "Yeah, you was watching the fight." She was like, "Yeah, I was." She was like, they were she was reading the comments, and they called him something. I forgot what they called him. So, Phil is like, Bob wants you. Bob saw it. Bob wants you out. Should we call Bob up? He says, Jacob's like, you know what? For the sake of my sister, I'm going to say no because I don't want to bring up any issues for Grace. So then he texts Karissa, fired. I'm like, ooh, Karissa ain't going to like that. So then we see Karissa with the guy that, closed on the land. And, she's telling him, like, she knows that he's Hope and Harmony. He's like, oh, we're a subsidiary of Hope and Harmony. Harmony and Hope, whichever one it is. And, she tries to extort money out of him. And she's like, let me, what, I should call my husband. And he stops her. Because he was like, obviously your husband don't know. So he kind of put a dent in her little, what she was trying to do. And so she's like, you know what, my mother-in-law is driving me crazy, and my husband has lost both of his jobs, and this check that you just gave me is not going to be enough to close on this house that we want. So he says, you know what, I'll give you the extra money, but, he wants to get to know her basically inside and out. I'm like, ooh, Karissa. Ooh, we falling down in that totem pole, huh? Literally. So then we see Jacob. He's in his office and he's going through his contacts, and we see him. He pulls up Cheap Dirty Blonde Skank's contact. I'm like, oh, are we gonna reach out to her? I wonder where they are. Where she, Basie, and Retro Shell are. Probably still on the run somewhere. So then Karissa comes into the office. She tells Jacob that she put an offer out on the house, and Jacob was like, wait a minute, how did you put an offer out on the house? Like, the money that we got from the land wasn't enough. She was like, oh, I was able to scrunch up some extra money and I just went ahead and put an offer on it. Oh, we lying. We're lying. So then, she says, let's go ahead and celebrate. He's like, cool. But then when she says that, Lady May calls him and tells him like, hey, I need you to come home because there's someone I feel like you want to meet. He's like, who? She says, Grace's son. So then Jacob was like, well, changing plans. She's like, no, I'm the one that made these plans, so I'm the only person that can say change the plans. And he was like, well, we got to go home because Mama wants me to meet Grace's son. And she's like, when are you going to be a man and stand up to your mother? Well, he's actually been a man and standing up to you, like, because you typically run over him. So Jacob's actually been a man. He's putting his foot down when it comes to you because typically he tells you he don't say no to you, but you don't see that. It's all about you, Karissa. You just as bad as that dang on Charity. So then Jacob is still questioning where did she get this money from? Like, I'm like, oh, Jacob, if she tells you where she got this money from, that's gonna be some mess. So then we see her when she realizes Jacob is not going anywhere with her. She calls the guy from before. She asks him, is he free? I'm like, oh, Karissa, your slip is showing. Your slip is showing. All right, and then we see Karissa. She is with the guy. She's sulking and she's drinking some wine. And then out of nowhere, he leans into her. She's like, what are you doing? He says, oh, you know what I'm doing. And he kisses her on the neck. And then they start kissing. And then she gets on top of him. I'm like, oh. And then they go at it in his office in broad daylight. I'm like, oh, oh, oh. You are bold. Both of y'all are bold. You a married woman. And he know you a married woman. And I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. So then, later in the episode, after the dinner, we see Jacob in his bed, in her bedroom, and Karissa comes in. He asks Karissa, like, where have you been? She's like, oh, I was with Nadine. I'm like, oh. And so Jacob is getting ready to leave. She's like, where are you going? He says, I'm going to Calvary because I've been waiting for you so you could come and, be here with Winky. I did not know that little boy's name was Winky. What kind of name is Winky? I hope Winky is a nickname. I pray Winky is a nickname. So, he says, you've been drinking, haven't you? She says, yes, I was drinking. I was out celebrating. She said, the whole time I was wishing you were with me. I'm like, really, Karissa? You wish she was with you when you was getting your back blown out? Probably wasn't getting it blown out that badly. But, ooh. So then we see Jacob, after he goes to Calvary to, pack up his stuff. But we see Karissa, she's in the shower washing the filth off. I'm like, oh, I know you feel dirty. You can't judge Jacob no more. And as Jacob is getting ready to leave Calvary, he hears Charity and he hears Phil. And he goes up to Phil's office door and he looks in and he sees Charity kissing Phil. I'm like, yes, Charity, your slip has shown too. About time. You ain't as slick as you think you are. I know you probably think that nobody's in that office in the church at that late at night, but you might want to double check if you're about to try to have sex with somebody. You might want to double check. But you guys, that was Greenleaf. Leave your comments, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification button so you guys know when I drop anything, and I will see you guys later.